Hey guys, welcome back for another video. Today I am actually making something for myself because I have regionals coming up in a couple weeks where it's going to be post Phantom Nightmare, and I want to figure out which non-engine to main deck and maybe which non-engine to side deck as well. So I built this spreadsheet and I'm going to fill it out with you guys today. It's almost like it's gonna create a hand trap tier list for us basically, and it's actually gonna kind of just bypass overall presumptions and actually look at where the hand traps are good, which ones are best against most things, and that kind of stuff. And we can kind of data analyze afterwards. So it's going to be kind of a dense video. It's going to take a little while. So a lot of you are going to skip to the end. I hope you don't, but you are more than welcome. So, yeah, how this is going to work basically is I'm going to go through every hand trap or non-engine card here on the left, Ash Bell, Droll, Nib, etc., and we're going to assess how good they are against every deck across the top. And I picked these decks because number one, I think they are the best decks of the format, and number two, I think that they all capture whatever decks are not in there as well. Like, so for example, I don't have Dragon Link in there, I don't have Sprite in there, but hey, if I can counter Manadium, I'll probably be fine against Dragon Link. And if Manadium and Tear combined are kind of like the same stuff that's good against Dragon Link, and Sprite is going to be similar to stuff like Voiceless Voice plus Manadium. I don't know, but anyway, like all decks across the top have different kind of like play styles a little bit, so we're going to try to cover as many of the play styles as possible, and those play styles should cover whatever's not here. Okay, one more thing, I give extra weight to the non-engine that's good against Snake Eye, Lab, and Rescue Ace, because I think those are the three best decks or best engines or whatever, and the three that I'm most likely going to be seeing at the tournament, at least at the top tables if I make it there. So we're going to give a little bit of bonus value to stuff that's good against those three. So I've weighted them by 1.1 1.25, 1.25, and when the totals add up, we're going to see what's good and what's not. And I know my camera is covering some of those totals, but don't worry, you'll be able to see those in the end. So we're basically going to just go across the top by hand trap, and then there's some non-engine like spells in there too, and just gonna talk about them. I'm not gonna talk a lot of detail about every box because that's a damn lot of boxes. We have 17 non-engine choices and 10 decks, so that's 170 boxes to talk about. We don't got time, so we're just gonna do our best and kind of chuck stuff in here as we go, and I'll try to talk as we go. So against Snake Eyes, Ash is gonna get a 2. It's solid, but it's like not game breaking. Actually, I want to center all of these really quick as well. Against Lab, honestly, it's a 3. Against Rescue Ace, it's like I'd say it's pretty solid. It's a 2. Against Pearly, Ash is only a 1. Really, it's not gonna break the game. Hitting my friend is okay. Against Voiceless Voice, I think Ash is going to be a 3 here. Like, they have so many searchers, and we really need to cut them off from like pre-prep. Ash against Kashtira is like a 1. It's like you're going to hit Theosis maybe, or you hit the field spell. Ash against Flu, it's like a 1 or a 2. It always has been. It's not super good, but I think we'll give it a 2. Ash against Manadium's only a 1. Like, it's not impactful enough. It can be, if their hand is a brick, but if they can play through it, then you're just down a card. Ash into Tear is a 1 as well, same kind of reason. And the Ash into Runix is like a 2 because hitting Hugin is pretty valuable. Okay, on to Bell. Against Snake Eye, it's a 2. Against Lab, it's a 3 again. Just hitting that big welcome is pretty good. Bell into Rescue Ace is not as good as Ash, so it's a 1. Bell into Pearly is pretty terrible. Can you even Bell? You can Bell like if you out their monster, like they summon one back, but no. It's honestly a 0. Bell into this is not terrible when they revive the low. But it's not good enough. It's a 1. Bell into Cash it's a 1, honestly. Like, belling the Birth can just keep him off of a Fenrir for like 1 turn, which is something. Unless they shifter you, then you can't bell them. Bell into Flu is 0. Bell into Manadium is a 1 again, not impactful enough. Bell into Tear is going to be it's a 2, like it's good, but they can chain block it. And then Bell into Runic is also a 2, just to stop the draw 3 one time. Droll into Snake Eye is going to be, I think still a 3. Droll into Lab is basically a 0. Like they have the pots and they have Ariana, right? And that's it. It's not dead. It's really dead. I'm gonna give it a 0. Droll into Rescue Ace. Okay, so Hydrant searches Airlifter. Airlifter searches Spell. Spell summons Turbulence. Turbulence sets 4. So it's a 1. I'd say it's a 1. Droll into Pearly is I'm gonna give it a 2. Honestly, like if they don't summon in the draw phase, then they go Pearlily search My Friend. Shutting off the My Friend is actually really good. So I'm gonna give it a 2 because they also play pots, right? So yeah. Droll into this deck I think is gonna be a 3. Droll into Cash is gonna be a 2. It's pretty good. They have Field Spell, pots, Unicorn Fenrir, even Terraforming. It's gonna be solid. Droll into Flu is a 3. Droll into Manadium is a 3. Droll into Tear is probably a 3, maybe a 2. I'd say it's pretty darn good. I'm gonna give it a 2. And then Droll into Runic decks. It's probably just a 2 as well. Okay, on to Nib. Nibiru into Snake Eye, Fire King. Oh, by the way, Fire King is, I consider it Fire King Snake Eye. It's going to be pretty much very similar coverage. Like the point is the Snake Eye engine. Nib into that is going to be pretty good, I think. Probably a 2, maybe a 3. Because they're not going to put up negates, really. They have Appaloosa. I think it's going to be a 3. Nib into Lab is 0. Nib into Rescue Ace is a 1. Like, even if you nib them, they've probably already gone into Turbulence. But maybe they haven't. Like, they might go Turbulence after Summon 5. But I doubt it. I'm going to put it at 1 because most of the time they're going to Turbulence before you can nib. Nib into Pearly is a 0. Nib into this deck is a 1. Because usually they'll just summon out the Skull Guardian with the low and they can just negate the nib. I'm actually going to give it it's a 1. Nib into Cash is a 2. It's pretty good. Nib into Flu is a 0. Nib into Manadium. Like, standalone Nib into Manadium is never going to go through, but I don't know. I think it's a 2. It's just high impact. Nib into Tear is a 1 because they can pretty frequently put up either Rukalos or a Totally Awesome pretty shortly and then be able to play after. Nib into Runic builds are a 0. Shifter into Snake Eye 3 into Lab is actually pretty good. I think I'm gonna give it a 2 here because they can't use their hand trap discard, their furniture discards. Transaction rollback is not gonna have anything to banish to copy. So it's actually pretty solid these days against Lab. It's not as good as some stuff, but maybe it's a 1. Maybe it's a 1. Into Rescue Ace is a 3, I believe. Just if they don't fill up their graveyard with Rescue Ace stuff, they can't banish the Summon Turb. Shifter into Pearly is a 1. They play Shifter themselves. It just keeps them off of the Pearlily upgrade. Nib into this deck, Shifter into this deck is probably a 3. If we can banish their stuff, turn off Diviner, all that kind of thing. Shifter into Cash is a 0 because they played themselves. Shifter into Flu is a 0. Shifter into Manadium is probably a 3, to be honest. Even though they can play through it, it's still very good. Shifter into Tear is a 3. Shifter into Runic is a 3. DD Crow into Snake Eyes. I'd say it's a 1. Like, it's good. It has applications, but it's not impactful enough. DD Crow into Lab is also a 1. Same thing. Has applications, not impactful enough. Into Rescue Ace, same thing. Into Pearly is actually quite good. Maybe 3. just to counter the Per Lily thing. I think we can give it a 3 actually. Crow into this deck is a 2. When they try to summon back to low with the Skull Guardian, just crow it away, and that's much better than Bell because then it'll actually be removed. Crow into Cash is a 0. Crow into this is a 0. Crow into Manadium is honestly a 0. Maybe a 1. Crow into this is a 2 or a 3. That's a 2. And then honestly it's a 3 because it's better than Bell because you can't chain block the Crow. And then into most runic variants it's going to be like a 1. Right? Is there any difference? I don't think so. Ogre into Snake Eye. Probably not good. What would you Ogre? I don't think anything, really. It's gonna be like a 0. Just gonna honestly give it a 0. Ogre into Lab is a 0. Ogre into Rescue Ace is a 0. Ogre into Pearly is a 2. Ogre into Voiceless Voice is a 2. Ogre into Kashtira is actually a 2. Hitting Birth, okay, that's fine. Ogre into this is a 0. No, it's not. No, it's not. The Field Spell. Field Spell is good hit. Ogring the Monsters is bad in Flu, but Ogring the Field Spell is fantastic. Ogre into Manadium. I actually kind of like it. I kind of like it. Like if they have like Riem Heart plus 2 like Meeks, or when they go like Riem Heart pop them Meek or whatever, you can just Ogre the Riem Heart, then they don't have any non-tuners. Ogre into this is going to be bad. It's going to be like a 1, maybe. And then Ogre into Runic is probably going to be okay. It's probably going to be better than most. Like, even if they can protect, if they have like a Link monster up there, they can't protect, so that's kind of nice. I'm going to give it a 2, to be honest. Not that it's going to matter. I don't think Ogre is going to make the cut. Okay. Phantasme into Snake Eye is going to be pretty good. I'm going to give that a 3, to be honest. 0 into Lab. Probably 2 into Rescue Ace. 0 into Pearly. 0 into Voiceless. Maybe a 1. Do they link that much? I don't think so. It's going to be a 0 here. 0 here. 0 here. Like they're going to put up a negate in Manadium before they link summons, so it's probably going to be a 0 there too. Unless they start right into Lightheart, but I doubt it. Same with Tier. Like they're going to put up a Rukalos or a Toad before they go into Sprint, or what else would they go into? Like Dark or something? Nah, I don't like it. Against most runic builds, 0. Okay, Phantasme kind of sucks. Imprim Valor into Snake Eyes. It's going to be pretty okay. It's going to be pretty okay. I think I'm going to give it a 2. Into this deck, it's a 1. Just hitting the Ariana is still decent. Into Rescue Ace, it's a 3. Like, there's a lot of Imprim targets. It's going to be a 3 into Pearly. It's going to be a 3 into Voiceless Voice. Probably 3 into Cash as well. 3 into Flu. Imprim Valor into Manadium is going to be a 2. Into Tier, a 1. And into Runic, like 1 or 2. Like hitting the Hugin is pretty good. We'll give it a 2. Okay, Lancia into the Snake Eye. Doesn't really need to banish anything. I'll give it a 0. 0 into Lab. Yeah, you turn off Transaction, but you can't chain it to Transaction. You have to preemptively use it, and then they can chain Transaction. It's a whole mess. So it's a 0. Into Rescue Ace, like a 1 maybe. Yeah, they can't summon Turbulence from hand, but they can just emergency. Pearly, no. Into this deck, no. They don't really banish that much, I don't think. Into Cash, it's like okay. Into Flu, it's pretty good. Give it like a 3, honestly. Out of these decks, Manadium, it's like a 1. You turn off summoning Astral out, that's pretty good. To Tier, 0. Like, you want to banish their stuff. Into Runic, it's like a 1 or 2. Give it a 2. Doesn't matter. Okay, Thrust. Now we're getting to the non-hand traps right now. Into the more so spell cards and stuff. For Thrust, we have into Snake Eyes. So going for okay. Thrust is tough because, you know, it depends. Are you going first or second? Going first into Snake Eye, they do play quite a lot of hand traps. So, and then going second into Snake Eye, they do have monster interruptions as well that they will use against you. So Thrust is probably like a 2 or 3 against these guys. I think I'm gonna give it a 3. Against Lab, Thrust is pretty terrible, but it's not dead. Like, they can summon Lovely and clear a monster as an interruption, and just that will turn your Thrust live at least. Into Rescue Ace, it's pretty bad because their interruptions are the spells and traps, not really the monsters, but they do have Preventer a lot of times, so, and they can... I would give it like a 2. Like, they play hand traps and they can use Preventer and they can have SP or Decode, Talker Heat Soul, stuff like that. I'll give it a 2. Against Pearly, it's a 3 just because they always use standby phase stuff and they have a lot of hand traps. Against these guys, it's also a 3. Against Cash, it's probably a 3. Against Flu, it's pretty good, but it's not going to crush. Like, they're not going to use their monster effects till you've like committed, and by then, what is the Thrust going to get you? We'll give it a 2. Monadium, it's like a 1. Like, their boards have so many negates that it's not going to matter, and they're not going to play too many hand traps, I don't think. So just 1 is fine. Against Tier, pretty good, 3. Against Runic, pretty bad. Like, most of their interruptions are probably going to be Runic stuff, but they could have some monster ones. I'll give it a 1. Talents is going to be similar. Into Snake Eye, we'll give it a 3 as well. Into Lab, it's a 0. Like, even if they have interruptions, like, even if they summon stuff out, it could be draw phase. If they're gonna on turn 1, like, if you go first turn of the game, they're not gonna use their furnitures during the main phase. So Talents is totally dead during main phase. They don't even play hand traps, really. Very few, anyway. Rescue Ace, Talents. It's probably okay. It's probably a 2 as well. Pearly, probably a 2. Into this deck, it's like Talents going first is going to be bad. They don't play too many hand traps, but going second is probably good. I'm going to give it a 2 here. Same with Cash, 2. Flu, 1. No, a 2. Into Monadium, it's going to be a 1 because they got too many negates. To Tier, going first is a 0, but going second, it's pretty decent, so give it a 1 there. Runic is, I'm just going to give it a 0. Going first, they're not going to have hand traps, so yeah. Super Poly, I like this one. Okay, so Snake Eyes, I think pretty frequently you're going to have a Super Polyable board. They just have a lot of fires, so that's good. It's going to be pretty good against Lab too, because they can have 2 darks. You can Super Poly those away. I'm honestly going to give that like a 3, because clearing their monsters is big. Rescue Ace is going to be a 2 or 3. Super Poly is always live into Rescue Ace. Into Pearly, it's going to be a... Probably going to end on just... Nah, I think it's a 1 here. Into this deck, it's going to be pretty darn good. They're all light monsters, so you can go Garuda pretty easy. Into Cash, it's going to be a... probably pretty bad. Unicorn Fenrir plus something. I'm going to give it a 0, honestly. Into Flu, you can Super Poly like Eagle and M-Pen, right? Those are both wins, right? I don't know what else you would Super Poly. I'll give it a 1. I think some amount of time, you're going to be able to super poly that deck. Super poly into Vanadium, depends what targets you're playing. I think it's going to be a 2. Super poly into Tier, it's going to be a 2 as well. Like, it's solid, but a lot of times, like, if you don't want to super poly away their fusion monsters because they're going to gain more out of it than you are. But you can hit away, like, random stuff, like 2 Darks, SP plus Barone. Like, are they going to make that? I don't know. And then into Runic, who really knows? Probably pretty bad super poly chances, but if it's a Runic deck with lights or darks, could be okay. Give it a 1, benefit of the doubt. All right, books. Books into Snake Eye. Probably pretty okay. If you were to Book of Moon, like going second book is pretty bad though. I'll give it a 1. Book into this deck, pretty bad. You can't even target the lady. Book into this deck is pretty good. If they summon Turbulence or Hydra, you can book it. That's pretty nice, right? So let's go ahead and give it a 2. Pearly, books against Pearly, that's what they're for. Books against this deck. Could be okay. I think a 2, honestly, is pretty good. Book against Cash, 3. Book against Flu, 0. Book against Vanadium. Going second is a 0. Going first is a 1. I mean, going first is like a 3. So we could probably give it a... I think we'll give it a 2. At least trade it with a negate. Going second. Against Tier, not good. They can just fuse away the face down. I'll give it a 1. And against Runic, a 1 as well. Maybe a 2. Depends what Runic variant. We'll give it a 1, just because we don't know. Okay, Cosmics into Snake Eye. Going first is great. Going second doesn't matter enough. I think we'll go 2 though. Going second, like if they have a monster in the spell zone that Flamberge wants to summon back, you can Cosmic it away, which is kind of cool. Against Lab, I'll give it a 2, just because Cosmicing away their traps is good. Against Rescue Ace, it's like a 1. Like trading 1 for 1 with one of their free set 4 traps is not good. Cosmic against Pearly is pretty good. We'll give it a 2. Cosmic against this deck is pretty good. We'll give it a 2, just because they have that continuous searcher. Cosmic against Cash is pretty good. Give it a 2. Cosmic against Flu is really good. Give it a 3. Cosmic against Vanadium is not good. Trades 1 for 1. I guess going first against Vanadium, if you have a set Cosmic, you can hit one of their field spells, which is a pretty good trade a lot of times. But going second, well, what are they going to have? The set trap? It'll just trade 1 for 1 with that trap, maybe. Give it a 1. Against Tier, same thing. Going first, you can hit the planet, you can hit Scream, or going second, you can trade with Solik. I think it's a 2. And then against Runic, it's going to be a 3. Wow, Cosmic is actually really far ahead here. Alright, Fenrir into Snake Eye. Pretty good. I'm going to go a whole 3 on that. Fenrir into Lab is pretty bad. Right? Like, you can hit away an Ariana, but who cares? You can hit away a Butler, but they're quick effect dodge a lot of times. Not good. I'll give it a 0, honestly. Fenrir into Rescue Ace is pretty solid. I'll give that a 2. Fenrir into Pearly, I'll give that a 2. Fenrir into this deck, I'll give that a 2. Fenrir into this deck is actually good. 2. Fenrir into this deck is actually good. Give that a 3, honestly. Fenrir into Vanadium, not enough. It's a 1. It's like okay, but it's not big enough to run over any of their end board. But it's pretty... I'll give it a 2 here. Into Tier, it's a 2, and into Runic, it's still a 2 or 3, probably a 2. So Fenrir is very solid. All right, let's look at evenly. Obviously, going second in all cases, because going first is gonna suck. Going second into Snake Eye, it's just a 1, because they have so much engrave follow-up. Into Lab, it's just a 1. Like, even though they're a trap deck, they can just flip all the traps summon other monsters, bounce the monsters back, and now you've lost your battle phase, and they have a whole bunch of follow-up. To Rescue Ace, it's pretty good. We'll give it a 3 here, just because what's it going to be better against. To Pearly, it's a 2. Clearing their My Friend and the Field Spell and whatever sets they have is pretty nice. To this deck, it's a 2. Just get rid of that continuous stuff. But they have so much follow-up in hand. Probably a 1. Evenly into Cash is going to be pretty good. 2 there. Into Flu, 2 there. Yes, they can burn all their stuff to get into a Apex Avion, but it's still good enough, I think. Evenly into Manadium is going to be a 0. Like, they're going to have Barone, they're going to have the counter trap. You have to play through 2 counter traps and then resolve your Evenly. No battle phase. They have follow-up. Not good. Tear. It's pretty solid against Tear, and against Runic, it's not that great. Like, they don't commit too much to the field, and if they just leave Field Spell up and have a couple Runics in hand, you're cooked. So we'll give that a 1. Yeah. All right. Sweet. Let's look at the totals now. Let me move myself out of here. Let's look at our totals. Okay. So, that was fun exercise. Totals, Ash, 19.75. It's pretty good. It's never dead. There's no zeros in the Ash column, very important. Let's see who has no zeros. Ash, Thrust, Cosmic Cyclone. That's it. That is it. Right? That's actually kind of surprising. I don't know if Thrust is really as good as we are saying here, but it could be. So, you know, it's justifiable to give Thrust a 0 against Manadium and Cosmic a 0 against Manadium. But, like, okay. But, yeah, that's interesting. Bell, I thought would actually be better. 14.5 here. But it's carried by the matchups with the Snake Eye and Lab decks, so that's cool. Droll is very good against a lot of decks and dead against some. I guess it's only dead against Lab. And Rescue Ace, it's not very good either. Nib is actually it's the worst, no, third worst on this list. I was surprised by that too. Nib. It's good against Snake Eye. Terrible against this. Cash, no. Flu, no. Pretty good against Manadium. Okay against Tear. Terrible against Runic. So, yeah, Nib is less than I expected. Shifter, very good. 21.75, one of the highest ratings. I think, it is the highest rating. Second highest rating. Next to Thrust. Man, I don't know if the Thrust passes the sniff test. Oh, third highest. We have an Imperm too. Crow, not good enough. It's like not impactful enough generally. So we're gonna drop that down. Ogre ended up pretty bad. It's bad against the 3 top decks. So do what you will. Phantasme, absolutely terrible. 0s against 7 of these decks. None of them link summon, or when in the case of Manadium and Tear, they link summon after they have already done stuff, like made negates. So I was considering Phantasme for this side, but I don't think it's going to be anymore. Imperm Veiler is actually very solid against a lot of these, so that's cool to know. Yeah. Lancia, terrible. Thrust is, yeah, we already talked about Thrust a little bit, but I don't know if I believe it. Like, everyone is playing Handtraps right now, so Thrust could go nuts, but it also depends on what are your Thrust targets. Like, if you're going first and you get Handtrapped, Thrust for what? Because you don't want to just Thrust for Imperm. I'd rather just play an Imperm or something, and then it'll at least be unexpected, you know? So what would I play with Thrust going first? Like, I would have to play like almost a trap card, like a floodgatey thing, like D-Barrier, or like different dimension ground or something. Or what else would I want to set? I don't know. So that's the problem with Thrust. Yeah, Thrust is live all the time, but what's worth playing with it? Don't know. Talents is pretty okay. It's pretty average. 16.25 here. It's terrible against Lab, but it's okay against everything else. You know, talents into Rescue Ace is like okay, 1 or 2 maybe. Super Poly is pretty good. Pretty good against the top 3 decks. That's nice to know. It's good against Voiceless Voice. Against Pearly, it's probably a 0, honestly. Let's be honest. This is probably a 0-2. Super Poly and 2. Like, if they have double M-Pen, you can't even Super Poly for anything, though. But if they have M-Pen Ryza or M-Pen Apex Avion, then you could. Yeah, whatever. I'm just going to convince myself that Super Poly is good. Books are pretty bad against the top decks, but pretty good against everything else. It's kind of like all of the last format decks. Books are good. Who would have guessed, you know, because books were meta last format, so that's good. Cosmic. This one surprised me a lot. Cosmic is pretty solid across the board. So I'm going to consider that. Fenrir is also very solid across the board. Good against everything but Lab. So yeah, Lab's tough. Evenly is okay. It's just average. Like, you're not gonna crush Snake Eyes or Lab. You're gonna do pretty good against Rescue and Pearly, but you know, it's kind of so-so against a lot of these decks. So okay. Let's sort these, or let's just highlight the top ones, the ones that are over 20, first of all. These 4. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. These 4. Shifter, Imperm Veiler, Cosmic, and Fenrir. Turns out are pretty solid. And then the next tier of stuff, we have Ash. Oh, wait, no. Droll is also solid. Forgot that one. Hold on. Yep. Okay. Next tier of stuff, we have Ash. What else is in that? Oh, Thrust apparently is solid, too. Ash and Super Poly are both good. And maybe Talents. We'll throw Talents in that category. Evenly in that category. Yeah, I'm gonna leave Evenly out. Cool. So we're gonna give those yellow. Then the rest are pretty like bad or niche. So what does this mean? Okay, for the main deck, choices are going to come out of these teal and yellow options that I've highlighted over here on the side, because they're good a majority of the time and they are kind of like generically solid. These ones that are not highlighted, Bell, Nib, Crow, Ogre, Phantasme, are they out of the deck? Not necessarily. We have to look at which ones are like 3s a lot. Like, if there's one with a few 3s and a bunch of 0s, that is side deck material, man. That means that those cards are so good against some decks, you're going to side them in, but otherwise, leave them out. That's what the side deck is for. So let's see if any of those fit the category. Bell has a 3 still. Nib has a 3 still. Crow has a 3. Phantasme has a 3. Lancia has a 3. Books have a 3. And Evenly has a 3. So they all have 1 3 each, which means that we have to look at what my deck has a hard time against within the engine, and whatever that deck is, like for the deck that I'm going to play, it struggles a bit against Lab. So I'm going to pick the cards that are good against Lab and favor the ones that are 3s for my side deck. So Bell is probably going to be in the side. Super Poly will be in the side or in the main even, probably. and then everything else will just kind of fill in with generically good stuff with just higher numbers, using probably these yellow and light blue sections. So anyway, that was a fun exercise. Like, I'm legit going to use this spreadsheet. You guys are more than welcome to as well, but this is how I'm trying to choose my non-engine for my deck. For my regionals, I'm going to Morgantown, West Virginia on February 10th or something, I believe it is, or 11th. So if you guys are going, hit me up in the comments. Also, might go to Columbus the following weekend, and then we'll be at South Park, Pennsylvania on March like 16th or whatever day that is. So yeah, I'm trying to hit those 3 regionals, and I might go to YCS Raleigh as well. So that's all Phantom Nightmare format, I believe. I think Raleigh is still Phantom Nightmare format, not Legacy Destruction yet. But anyway, this is going to come in handy. I'm going to keep this up for myself, and I'm going to reference this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this and got some value, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, trying to grow the channel. That would be awesome. We'll catch you guys in the next one. We'll see you.